Yes, sir. We are live. Monday night, a little bit late this afternoon, 6:07 Central Time. Going live here, Moneyline MMA, coming off some great heat. Yet another successful card, 18-2 in the last two fight cards. That is, are Jose and I. Last week, coming off the pay-per-view event, wanting Dustin Poirier to win oh so badly, but when it comes to the show and when it comes to making money, we make the right picks here. Another successful week, 9-1. The only loss from last week was my number one weight pick. Alex Morono ended up getting the loss. But outside of that, my 2 through 5 weights all hit. Jose went 5-0. And the week before that, I went 5-0. And Jose only lost his 2 weight in Edson Barbosa. So very hot lately has Moneyline MMA been. And I also noted in the description, we got on 4 card streak of both of us hitting our 5-weight picks as well. So continue to listen in on those 5-weight picks. Those are our most confident. Those are essentially our best bets individually in for each card, and that's going to be the pick that hits the most. Very, very commonly hitting so far this year. I specifically called too, just saying, not only did I pick Jailton Almeida, I called within the distance. He made it look absolutely easy. Kevin Holland getting a unique submission. They had to call it technical because Olajaychuk's arm was literally looking like Tony Ferguson's in that one fight where he didn't tap, but he got out of the arm bar, and Olajaychuk was just laying there with his arm twisted and bent and mangled, and he apparently didn't tap. And I don't know, I watched the replay, and what I saw was apparently different from what everybody else saw, because to me in the replay, it looked like when the ref called it off, he was mad at Holland for holding it so long. And or that Holland was like yanking on it. It's like, I don't know. The way I saw it is that he was almost like mad at Holland for breaking his arm or twisting, like, because there's just no friggin' way his arm is at best dislocated. At best. So I didn't get any medical reports on that, but that was just an interesting fight. Of course, Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa, kind of boring. For the lack of a better term, and not that it was straight up boring, but it just wasn't what you thought Paulo Costa might bring, because Sean Strickland did everything that you would expect him to do. It was Paulo Costa to me that I was expecting to kind of turn it into like a dog fight and just close the distance, kind of do what Max Holloway did with Gaethje at the end of their fight, and just because that was really Paulo's only way to win, honestly, the whole time. Strickland was dominating. Of course, the main event, I thought Poirier was setting up a great counter. I got to give credit to Makhachev. Like, his chin is there. Poirier was landing some damage. I'd argue that Makhachev was more damaged at the end of that fight, especially from the elbow Poirier gave him and really cut up his forehead. Going into that 5th round, Islam was still bleeding after they gave him like a bunch of Vaseline and stuff. Like, he was still leaking. So, man, Poirier got the damage done. He just couldn't knock the lights out of Islam, and says after the fight, hey, this might be it for me. But personally, I doubt it. I'm going to call it right here. Dustin Poirier fights one more time, similar to like who just recently got a KO and retired as a legend, Robbie Lawler. Just like Robbie Lawler, he's going to get one more fight to KO somebody and walk out like a legend. Or even the Korean Zombie kind of thing. Just, one big kind of hoorah where he's probably not the main event, but he's getting the recognition, right, as being one of the best.
Yo, I wanted to say something too. Volk did call out Dustin Poirier, and I could winner of that
Really?
match rematches Islam or something. I don't know. Volk versus Dustin Poirier. I don't know. I kind of like that too, and that could be a big money fight too.
Volk's gears, dude. Volk wants to go on a losing streak. What is that?
That's the thing with these fighters too. Kind of like, Tony Ferguson and stuff. Like, they want to go out on their shield, and Volk is that guy too. So I mean, I'm kind of down for it. I just want to throw that out there. Like, I know Dustin Poirier said like he may consider retiring, but that could be a potential matchup too. Possibly, maybe. I don't know, like, because they did ask him, like, Dana White was asked, like, do you ever see like Dustin like remaking his way up to like fight for the title again? He didn't give a clear answer, so it's not a no. So, man, that could always be like Dustin Poirier could even be like a stand-in guy again. If he gets one more win, he can be a standing guy. So, yeah, that being said, yeah, just sort of like I'm a little optimistic. Like he did talk about the retiring thing, but I agree with you. I do think we may get like 1 or 2 more out of him.
Interesting. Yeah, I could go on for a while about that. We're here to discuss the fight card coming up Saturday, but I appreciate you putting that note in because I didn't know that Volk called him out, and I personally don't like that move from Volk. I might just have too much faith lost in him, but I really think that's still advantage Poirier if they fight. Poirier's got great jiu-jitsu, man. Volk can't just take him down and do anything simple like that. I mean, it's going to be a brawl. I think Poirier thrives. Like, I just think about when he I'm pretty sure it was Michael Chandler, whoever it was, Poirier fought, and he was on his back, and he was just blood was just dripping on his face because he cut dude up. Like, I just think about that. Like, that's where Poirier is best. That's literally what he wants the fight to be. And I'm not sure about Volk in that situation.
Yeah, no, I hear. And yeah, like, Dustin still has knockout chance. And we were just talking about earlier about how Volk's already been knocked out twice. So I hear what you're saying, yeah.
But they're legends. I can't deny that would be something I'd be excited to see just because they're legends of the sport. And we get to see, like, all right, yeah, whoever wins this gets to get a kind of a champion level send off. I mean, they're both at the ends of their career. I think Volk and Poirier could both get that one more chance. I mean, Poirier though, Volk deserves it more than Poirier in terms of Poirier's got now 4 attempts, I believe, and Volk had the belt for however long. Poirier never did.
No, yeah, I see.
But yeah, no further delay. That was last week's eventful pay-per-view card. We're actually going to get 2 pay-per-views in June for those who haven't noticed. That was obviously technically a June pay-per-view with it being June 1st. And we're also going to be seeing the McGregor and Chandler fight occur on June 29th. So kind of one of those unique scenarios. But usually around the summertime, the UFC does kind of double up on pay-per-views. Last year it was in July where they did double pay-per-view. And this time it looks like it's going to be the June month technically because there's only 1 pay-per-view lined up, which is UFC 304 in July. But yeah, that being said, we're looking at fight night coming up in Louisville, Kentucky. Jared Cannonier's fighting Nasruddin Imavov. And for those who are new to our system here, we have a 5-weight pick system. 5 weights, we take 5 fights. There's currently 14 fights slated for UFC Louisville. We pick 5 of them, prelims or main event, and weigh our confidence from 5 to 1, with 5 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. Now, of course, if the fighter has been picked at the 1 weight, that we're still confident enough to pick them over some other options. There's 14 fights on this card. We're only picking 5. But the 5 weight is our most confident. It's our individual best bet of the week. We do not make these picks together. They're made separately. And just before the show, we confer just to know what order we're going to go in because we always go 5 weight first and 1 weight at the end. So that's just a little background on how this works. You can essentially get the Moneyline MMA best bet by taking the combination of the 2 confidences that we have, assuming they're the same fighter, and the largest confidence combined will be the Moneyline MMA best bet. Sometimes we both agree on the same 5 weight. Sometimes it's only a combined 5 weight that is our lock of the week. It just depends because, like I said, we don't discuss this ahead of time. We just make our picks individually and then come into it only with the knowledge of what order we're going in. Without further ado, I'm going to start off with my 5 weight of Saturday afternoon. This is going to be, I don't think his nickname is the Dog. Let's see, no, his nickname's actually the Hulk. But I feel like he reminds me more of a dog, like just like a hound that you have to put a sign on your fence where it's like just beware of dogs, man. Because guess what? Bruno Ferreira is going to come in and clean up Dustin Stoltz's fist. I'm calling this one 2 weeks in a row in which I'm going to call not only the win, but the win method. That's going to be a win inside the distance by KO for Bruno Ferreira. He's going to clean up Dustin Stoltz's. I'm sorry to say. Dustin's got a good name. He was a Contender Series winner against Joe Pyfer, had all this hype, comes into the UFC and loses 3 straight fights. Against good fighters, sure. but he has not been able to beat anybody that I respect as much as I respect Bruno Ferreira. We're talking about a guy who knocked out RoboCop. That's not easy to do. I think Gregory Rodriguez would probably beat Dustin Stoltzfus, but this dude gets knocked out by Ferreira. Ferreira's one loss in the UFC, of course, okay, didn't look good, right? First round knockout loss to Nursultan Rozabayev. But then he comes back and gets a first round KO of Phil Hawes. I think that's two opponents that Ferreira's knocked out that are better than any win Stoltzfus has. I mean, this is just a situation where Ferreira should come in. He should be the dominating opposing guy. He's going to be more aggressive. He's going to have the power, and he will finish Dustin Stoltzfus. That is my 5-weight pick. And I don't currently see any odds specifically for Ferreira by KO, at least on FanDuel. Usually those come out, props usually come out around Tuesday. So we might have to catch those later in the week. Keep an eye out for that. But right now, Ferreira just money line is minus 280. Pretty big favorite. People see what I see, but not specifically picking by KO. You should be able to get that down into the mid hundreds. If you can get that at like minus 150 or something, do it all day. Ferreira should finish him by KO. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you. Bruno Ferreira should get this win. He's definitely a finisher, like you mentioned. 8 out of his 11 wins come via KO/TKO. Unfortunately, I did not bet on this fight. I did not have time. I didn't actually not look into this one as much as I wish I would have, or else he definitely would have been my clear 5-weight. I went for the fights that I should have kept more of an open mind and looked at all of them. Because there's so many like fighters I knew on this one that I thought would be like good ones to look and review, that this was just one that slipped my mind. If I didn't go for one of the prelims, I would have definitely talked about this fight, and Bruno Ferreira would have definitely been my 5 or 4 weight. I definitely agree with you. He should get this win, and I would say as much as like I could see him finishing this within the distance via KO/TKO, another KO/TKO, I should say. So I did not rank this one, but I do feel strong about Bruno, like you, Nick.
Sounds good, man. Okay, so we agree, but at least officially, this will be my 5-weight. Jose does not have a weight on this one. And just as a reminder, that means my 5-weight pick, I am saying my lock of the week is Bruno Ferreira by KO. We'll move forward now to Jose's lock of the week and his 5-weight pick.
My matchup, this is between Julian Marquez and Zachary Reese. Right now, Julian Marquez, he's the betting favorite at minus 148, while Zachary Reese is the betting underdog at plus 116. Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis, he's coming off 2 losses, got finished, and it's been a minute since we've seen him in the octagon. It's been over a year. I think this is good for him though. He was on a 2-fight winning streak prior to that. He won both by submission, and ultimately, I think this fight, though Zachary Reese has never been finished, I think Julian Marquez can submit Zachary Reese. He doesn't have as much UFC experience, and he's the one that lost by slam to Cody Brundage back in December. So, but other than that, I mean, Zachary Reese, he's a finisher though, and so he's a lot of his wins come in the first round. I think Julian Marquez is going to be his first fight where he's going to make it out of the first round. So I'm interested to see how Zachary Reese is going to look more later in the second and third round. And that being said, I think Julian Marquez is good enough to either get a submission or win this via decision. I'd be surprised if he gets a KO or TKO. This fight will be on the feet a lot, but when they match up, Zachary Reese, he's not only taller by 2 inches, he is also has a 5-inch reach advantage over Julian Marquez. So Zachary Reese is going to be the taller guy here in this matchup with longer reach. But when it comes to the striking department, without a doubt, I have faith in Julian Marquez as well. He lands 4.86 significant strikes per minute, but he does absorb quite a bit. But Zachary Reese, he's not been in the UFC as much, so not much to say. But thus far, he's thrown 3.93 and he's absorbed 6.56. Again, he's not been in the UFC as much, but both these guys do get hit a lot. And like to throw a lot of bombs as well. So, I did say Julian Marquez would win this by submission, but not. I take that back too. I think he's also could possibly win via KO/TKO. And the reason I say that is because he's going to have to close the distance without a doubt against Zachary Reese. And I expect him, they're both going to be swinging and clanging, but I think Julian Marquez is going to be the one more likely to go for a takedown, put Reese against the cage and look for the submission. So that being said, I do feel I just feel confident overall with Julian Marquez to get this win, even though he's coming off 2 losses. He's only fought once every year in 2022 and 2023, and now he's not been as competitive as much, and he's taken off over a year off now. I think he's going to come in and be refreshed because he's only getting older too. He's 34 years old, so I would actually say like he needs to be a little more competitive than what he's been the last couple of years because I wouldn't really see much value that he would bring to the UFC roster if he keeps competing at this rate. Because when he first came into off Dana White's Contender Series in 2017, he was looking more like a heavier prospect. And then he also went on the Ultimate Fighter. But since then, he's only lost 3 times. Well, that split decision loss on the Ultimate Fighter finale, and then his most recent losses. But again, there's been years apart for those, and he's already taken over a year off. I think Julian Marquez should is going to come in better than ever and get this win. So I feel really good about Julian Marquez. What are your thoughts on this fight, Nick?
Man, this will be a disagreement here. So we're not going to find our MMA moneyline MMA lock of the week here from our 5 weights at least. I disagree, man. I'm taking Zach Reese. He's going to be my 2-weight of Saturday afternoon, and I will say, even though he's my 2-weight, he's still somewhat pretty confident. I'm looking at some things again with Julian Marquez. I like him, but it's kind of a similar thought process to my handicap against Dustin Stoltzfus, right? I don't think Julian Marquez has really performed that well against guys that are really like a higher tier of the UFC. I mean, beating Sam Alvey is okay, but like I'm not really that impressed. And his most impressive win, in my opinion, is Phil Hawes to get into the UFC when he knocked him out in the Contender Series. But that's 7 years ago now or so. Like that was a long time ago. So maybe even more actually. That was 2017. So I mean, geez, man, that's just so long ago. I think Julian Marquez, having come off 2 straight knockout losses, is not a good look. Because even though I do agree that he has more of a submission threat with 4 submission wins, hasn't lost by submission, thing is, these guys are both, to me, as I see it at least, really like back, what am I trying to say? Like back jiu-jitsu heavy. Like they want to get submissions off their back. Let's just say that Julian Marquez has not landed a single takedown in his UFC career. He's fought 7 times. Every time he's won by submission, somebody was taking him down. He got taken down 5 times when he submitted Maki Pitolo. He got taken down 4 times when he submitted Darren Stewart. I don't see Zach Reese initiating a takedown here. Neither of these dudes are the kind of guys to get taken down. In fact, Zach Reese, as you mentioned, got slammed, KO'd, lost to Cody Brundage, and that's partially because he was on his back trying to go for a triangle, and he gets it in, and Cody Brundage is like, slam, like, that's just like, you learn from your mistakes and quit going for submissions on your back. I suspect that this fight stays on the feet. I would predict that Julian Marquez brings some heat early to try to make it some chaos. I think Zach Reese needs to survive that early heat, and he will thrive and get a KO or decision win against Julian Marquez. Strictly, like I said, on the notion that these both guys, like they both have 4 or 5 TKO wins, but Marquez is the one coming off 2 straight TKO losses. While Zach Reese, he did get finished by Cody Brundage, but it was a unique situation where he got slammed. It wasn't necessarily a punch that he got countered on or something like that. So I think it was a little different than just being straight knocked out, standing TKO punches by Marc-Andre Barriault. And that's why I have my pick here, 2-weight on Zach Reese.
I totally hear you, and the thing is, yeah, I've not seen Zach Reese enough either. So if I were to see more of him too, I probably would have a different judgment. But Julian Mark, yeah, just as you mentioned, it does not look good coming out 2 losses. But you also argue that Zachary Reese's loss is even more recent, by like 6 months. So that means, but again, both guys had more than enough time to recover. And Julian Marquez, fun fact, has a win over Matt Hamill too, who has a win over. He's the only guy who has a win over John Jones. So you can even argue Julian Marquez is like equivalent to the heavyweight champ.
Wait a minute, hold on. John Jones is undefeated, sir. Thank you very much.
According to this according to the official books.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No, of course, yeah, we know that's all John Jones' own fault. But like in terms, the DQ should almost just be completely expunged. But no, yeah. That being said, all jokes aside, Yeah, this is one we're definitely going to have to disagree on, but I feel good on Julian Marcus. I think it's, his return. It's because it's really now or never for him, and he's 34. He's in a good spot to really enter his prime. So, um, Julian Marcus is my 5 weight, and Reese is your 2 weight.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, that's fucking. Oh, I cannot believe you bring up John Jones, dude. I swear to God, dude. But in any case, that's your 5 weight, my 2 weight. A disagreement there. So through both of our 5 weight picks, which is our locks of the week, I had Bruno Ferreira by KO. Jose did not have a weight. And of course, Jose just had Marquez as his 5 weight. I have Zach Reese as my 2 weight. Let's move down one notch to our 4 weights of Saturday afternoon, aka our second most confident picks. And for me, it's going to be Raul Rosas Jr. I I've got a lot of confidence just because he really should win this fight stylistically. I could not make him my 5 weight personally because he's so young. He's disappointed us in the past, right? I can't say I'm ready to give my full faith back into the kid and just be like blindly like, yep, let's just put all our money in it. It should be no problem, right? Granted, he lost to C-Rod by decision. It wasn't necessarily embarrassing. C-Rod's a great fighter, and since they had that fight, C-Rod's had a lot of success. So it's hard to be upset. Raul just found himself in a bad matchup there. The UFC had a good fighter that they've been kind of using as a gatekeeper, and he's been proving everybody wrong in terms of fighting these prospects. And Rosas actually showed some power in his knockout against Terrence Mitchell. Not previously a kid that I thought really had a whole lot of power. I just see Rosas as a wrestler, gets a knockout win. I mean, it might not be against the top line fighter, but in the UFC, getting a knockout win is a big deal no matter what. And as much as I want to get in the bandwagon of Raul Rosas Jr., this is also somewhat of a pick just against Tercios. I don't think he's as good of an athlete as Raul Rosas. I'm not impressed at all by his wins. Both of his wins, split decisions, man. Just like he's getting fights that are grind fights. Like I can respect that, but Tercios just hasn't been that good. He's been getting taken down, and it just kind of dominated a lot of times. And even though he won via submission, his 2 wins, he's been taken down a combined 13 times. And I think one of the big differences is from those fights and from Raul Rosas Jr. is going to be that Raul has at least a finisher's mentality. That's just how it is. Raul has 5 submission wins and 1 decision win. He is the kind of guy to go for it and get something finished early. Multiple UFC round 1 wins. And Ricky Tercios is kind of the opposite. He's like a methodical, trying to win by decision or lose by decision. It's like kind of, I guess, uneventful, right? I just see Raul Rosas coming in here. He's going to get multiple takedowns. I don't think it'll be on the first takedown. It's clear that Tercios has the ability to get up. He got taken down 7 times and won the fight. That means he can get up. He isn't getting dominated on the ground. He isn't having someone on his back for 5 straight minutes, because that's how you lose a round real easy. Clearly, he lost a round because it was split decision, so maybe one of the rounds that happened. And like I said, to me, the difference between that fight and Raul Rosas Jr. is that we have a finisher in Raul Rosas Jr. He will actually go for chokes. He will actually go for arms constantly. He will not relent, and he will get that fight finished inside the distance. That would be my 4-weight pick. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, Nick, I actually agree with you on this one, all the way to the T that Raul Rosas Jr. is my 4 weight as well. I agree. That loss to C-Rod, nothing taken away from it. C-Rod is definitely racked up another 2 wins, and as you mentioned, just coming off a first round TKO to Terrence Mitchell, just really something just not that it was expected, but like Terrence Mitchell too isn't he's 34 years old, and I think we're kind of starting to see like he's not so much like UFC caliber fighter either. I don't want to say it that way. And as you mentioned, and Ricky Tercios as well, he definitely is UFC caliber. I think this is definitely going to be a harder fight than it was against Terrence Mitchell. But that being said, yeah, Ricky Tercios, he's not been he's been just sliding by, getting these wins, just like really working hard, like to like all the way to the point where it's just relying on the judges to win those split decisions. And Raul Rosas, he can be he's a finisher, and mostly in the submission department. Ricky Tercio has never been submitted, so this could be one of the first times Tercios gets submitted as well. And that being said, I don't know if I see Raul going the distance and beating Tercios like unanimously. If he beats Tercios, I think it's going to be split. But I think if it goes all the way to decision, but I think Raul is more likely to submit Ricky Tercios in this one. And just again, Ricky Tercios has not been as active either. Again, we haven't seen him since 2022. So and again, yeah, this fight has been canceled, and it was mostly on Raul Rosas Jr.'s part. So we like I get that. So it's not really I won't put much of that on Ricky. But that being said, too, it has been a minute since we've seen him compete at all in general. And that being said, yeah, I feel really good about Raul. This is one of those fights where he's going to be definitely challenged a little more, similar to like the C-Rod, but to the point where I don't think like he's gonna get dominated by Ricky at all. Again, if it goes to the decision, it's gonna be a close one. I think Raul split decision. Things Ricky has against over him. I'm a big guy when it comes to the reach advantage. Ricky has a 4-inch reach advantage over Raul Rosas Jr. And when it comes to the striking department, Raul does have power, but Ricky is just a lot faster with the hands. But Raul does have better striking defense, and along with he doesn't show anything as his takedown defense, but Raul Rosas, expect him to put the pace forward, and he's gonna do what he wants to do and go for the takedown. So that's the way I see this, is just him trying to establish a takedown and trying to take the back and go for a rear naked choke. It is the way I see it, unless if he wins by decision. If he can't implement that game plan and has to rack it up by points, I think it's going to be a split decision, a close one. So Raul Rosas Jr., I agree with you. He's my 4-weight.
Sounds good. So that'll be the Moneyline MMA lock of the week. 8 combined confidence points between Raul Rosas Jr. and Ricky Tercios. Of course, we're taking the favorite, Raul Rosas Jr., sitting at a -265. Of course, keep an eye on the the books as the week goes by. I think Tuesday, tomorrow, we should see some of those prop lines come out. And as Jose said, I really think it's going to be submission or decision. I really think it's going to be submission specifically. But hey, if you're feeling a little less risk averse, then you can just simply take a double winning chance and do submission or points. That's almost guaranteed to hit for Rosas Jr. And you can get a little better odds than 265 straight money line. So that being said, we're gonna move on. Let's get Jose on his 3-weight, since we just covered both of our 4 weights. We're getting a little further on our list here.
Yeah, so for my 3-weight, this is actually the main event between Jared Cannonier and Nasruddin Imavov. Right now, Jared Cannonier is the betting underdog at +108, while Nasruddin Imavov is the betting favorite at -138. This one, this was a tough week for me to grade a lot of these ones, well, to judge them, and this one was not easy either, because when I look at Jared Cannonier, he's a 40-year-old and his age, but dude's been looking nothing but good for his age, is what I'll say. And that being said, I am going with him. I'm going with the Killer Gorilla, and yeah, him being my 3-weight is mostly just because he's just been looking good, even though he's got that split decision win. It's a split decision win over Sean Strickland. A lot of people thought, and Sean Strickland's just been looking phenomenally good. Like, this would be a good rematch to see further down the line as well. If Jared obviously gets this win this weekend, which I think he will. So, and Jared, he's got power. He's just got a lot of power, and you can just tell, like, for him being this age at 40 years old and just being at the top of this division, just says a lot. Like, he started off as a heavyweight, and that being said, he's just not really shown any slowing down, especially his most recent unanimous decision win over Marvin Vettori last year in June. Like, Marvin being 10 years younger than Jared Cannonier, and Jared Cannonier just goes in and unanimously beats him. And Nasruddin Imavov, he's 29 years old, so not just 1 year younger than Marvin. And that being said, I don't think we'll see much of a difference. I think between Marvin and Nasruddin, I think Marvin is actually the better fighter. So if that being said, if Jared Cannonier can beat I'm not gonna try to make MMA logic here, I guess, like math, but Jared Cannonier has theoretically been just overall better fighters than Nasruddin. So that being said, that's why I think this fight is Jared Cannonier's for the taking. And how he beats Nasruddin, I honestly think he can just beat. I think he's gonna probably beat Nasruddin most likely unanimous decision because Nasruddin's never been finished before, and he's been submitted before. But Jared Cannonier, he's not much of a submission artist. Out of his 17 wins, he's only got 2 submissions. So that being said, I think it's going to be mostly a unanimous decision win. How they stack up, Nasruddin is the taller fighter. Jared Cannonier is 5'11", Nasruddin 6'3", but doesn't matter. Jared Cannonier still has a 2.5 reach advantage, and both guys, it's going to be definitely a striking matchup for the most part. Both guys land over 4.5 significant strikes per minute, and both absorb less is what they take in too, with Jared Cannonier absorbing 4.13 and Nasruddin 3.26 significant strikes per minute. Most likely, yeah, if this fight, it's probably someone's going to get finished. So if that being said, yeah, like either Killer Gorilla is going to win unanimous decision, or I see him KO/TKO and Nasruddin is the way I see it going down. What are your thoughts on this fight, Nick?
Dude, I will agree with you on Jared Cannonier. Slightly less confident. He's my one weight, and honestly, for a lot of the same reasons. You mentioned his last win against Vettori, and that played a lot into my thought process and handicap as well. I was impressed by his constant pressure against Vettori. I feel like no matter how far this fight goes, Cannonier's going to be pushing the pace all the way through. He'll continue to land strikes all the way into the 5th round, and he will stay in your face. Jared Cannonier landing a crazy 257 strikes against Vettori, and it just does not matter what round. He will continue. In fact, in the last fight, he landed 32 of 57 in round 4 and 50 of 83 in round 5. He picks up the pace late in the fight and against a guy like Vettori, and you just love to see it. And of course, Imavov is coming off his own main event, so he has 5-round, 25-minute fight experience in his majority decision win against Elidze, which is impressive. I mean, he clearly won that fight. So props to him. But as you said, Cannonier, it's kind of decidedly won against Vettori. It was a decision win, but he got fight of the night performance bonus for a reason. Strickland is a split decision win. That was a really close fight. Of course, it was a couple years ago, but we all know how good Strickland is now. And he's just quickly turned the table to now be one of the best middleweights that can't be stopped. So some people don't even think Strickland still hasn't lost since that fight. And even if you consider that fight as a loss, I know people who would say Sean Strickland hasn't lost since Alex Pereira. And I guess you could kind of make that argument, but we're not here to talk about Sean Strickland anyways. I do agree, though. Jared Cannonier is the pick, and I think it's going to be kind of more of a long-distance fight. I would honestly say Jared Cannonier and over. I don't think this fight finishes early. There's always a chance it does, but I find Cannonier to be more of the volume kind of striker, and I did like to see that he landed 4 takedowns against Vettori. I don't expect him to do that very much against Imavov, but it's at least a tool in his tool belt if he feels like he needs to kind of change the level of the field or something like that to change it up against Imavov. So either way, Cannonier, more experience, more tools in his tool belt, and I do like him to win.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, yeah, Cannonier, he is a volume, got high volume, but yeah, he still definitely just carries some of that. Just naturally being a heavyweight back in the day, I definitely feel like he must have like just more natural raw power behind those punches. So I do think like at the end of the day, like he's gonna cause the most overall just straight up damage, even on the feet. Nothing else, just on the feet. I think just that alone would be a lot of damage to Nasruddin to, again, potentially get that KO/TKO. So that being said, yeah, this is one we both agree on, but you're not as confident. He is your 1 weight, and he is my 3 weight.
Yes, sir. All right. We are getting through this pretty fast. We've covered almost all of our picks here. We've got my 3 weight, if I'm on count correctly, and Jose's 1 weight. Those are the last 2 fights remaining to discuss. Jose's 2 weight as well, actually. Jose's 2 weight will be involved in this next fight, is a spoiler alert. But who will it be? We do not know. I know, though, that my 3 weight is going to be Charlie Radke. This is a preliminary fight. This will be coming earlier in the card. And I got to admit, some of it is a homer bias. He's actually from my hometown up in Wisconsin. And he has been really great lately. He's on a solid win streak, and he's just been grinding out wins. and it's been kind of impressive if you ask me. It's granted it's not been against amazing, ridiculous competition, but I'm not honestly that impressed by Carlos Prates at all. I think Carlos Prates has shown a true weakness in the past to a submission game. He has 3 submission losses in his career, and a handful of them, well, a small handful at least, were in the first round. He got heel hooked and he got rear naked choked in the first round previously in his professional MMA career. Of course, not with the UFC. He's only got 2 fights in the UFC. He was able to knock out Mitch Ramirez and knock out Trevin Giles. Okay, great. It's great and all, right? But Carlos Prates wasn't even beating Trevin Giles. He was not beating that man going into the second round and ended up getting a nice, huge punch. I just was not impressed. Like, if you pick Prates to win, you're like, yeah, let's go. But you cannot convince me that he was winning that fight. That's crazy. He was not winning that fight. He just gets a great strike. It was a perfect timing, good power. It was all of it, right? I think it was more of a miracle, a fluke than anything else. I'll let Jose speak for more of the personal side of Radke, because I believe Jose has trained with him. But I really like Radke here in his submission aspect. He hasn't really shown it in the UFC, but I really do think that's going to be his biggest advantage. And it's one of those things where he hasn't shown it in UFC, so I can't act like it's something he's been able to do. He took down Blood Diamond when he fought him, but it didn't really turn into a whole lot other than almost 10 minutes of control time, which turned into an easy unanimous decision win. So if he flashes that wrestling ability against Carlos Prates, it just will not be close, in my opinion. This is a very confident 3-weight from me. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, Nick, this one, I agree with you. I have Charlie Radke as well. Obviously, also a hometown guy for me. I trained with them both in Wisconsin and Illinois area. And that being said, like, I used to train with him. I train with him now. I've trained with him now. I don't train with him consistently. He drops by my school every once in a while here in Chicago area. But I will tell you right now, his no-gi grappling, straight up MMA style grappling, is it's extremely technical, and he's just extremely powerful as well. It's a combination of power and technicality, but he's very specific when he uses his power. And this guy works out a lot. Like, you see videos of him. He trains. I said earlier, he reminds me, like, he trains like Michael Chandler. He's always pushing his body to the limits and conditioning. And he trains. He's a good school with VFS out here as well for striking. And I just think overall, a lot of people know him as like of a striker right now in the UFC, because as you mentioned, he's not really showing much of his grappling side. But yeah, when I was trained with him in Wisconsin, this was before his MMA career, and he was nothing but pure jiu-jitsu back then, even to just pure gi almost, it seemed like. And that being said, like, yeah, he just has a longer grappling career than he does MMA career right now. So that's something a lot of people don't really know. And that being said, like, I think this is going to be a good fight for him to show it and let it shine once and for all. But that's what, like, he's just such a dangerous fighter again. Like, he's been winning in, like, with his striking most likely, and like most recently, like, again, getting that knockout win. So this is something, like, that the audience has not seen yet, to see the type of style he's going to bring in when he incorporates more of his grappling. I guarantee you, yeah, he's going to push Carlos against the cage and just grind him out. I think he may even do something similar to Khabib, just grind him out, ground and pound him against the cage, and eventually look for that submission. I don't think he's going to try to force it. I think he's just going to almost let it fall onto his lap. The one thing that Carlos does, and I don't know if I said this, but Charlie is my 2-weight, and the only thing too that kind of the reason why is the low confidence is also just because mostly because of the picks I have ahead of him, obviously, but a big thing I'm about is the size advantage and disadvantages. And in this matchup, Carlos is the bigger guy. He's taller by 4 inches, and I'm sorry, he's taller. Yeah, he's taller by a couple inches, and he's also got a 5-inch reach advantage. And so just overall, like, that being said, like, he's just naturally going to be the taller, bigger guy. So the way I view it is, like, Charlie's almost going to have to close the distance and do exactly what I believe he's going to do, which is put Carlos against the cage and just not give him any space and not even let, like that's the best way just to shut down one of these tall fighters. You just never give them the space and reach over you. Just take it away from them, close the gap. Because once you close that gap, their power and their hits are just going to go completely away. And that being said, Carlos has got long limbs. That's like, a gift for Charlie, given if he's going against someone with long limbs. It's going to help him just control and out grapple him, to be honest. So that being said, I do feel like Charlie's going to get this win, and I agree with you. If he's going to get this win, I honestly think we may see his first submission in the UFC. But I'm going to stay away from that, from like saying specifically how he's going to win, just because again, he's already shown that he's got knockout power and his striking is getting better. Like you can just tell, like just seeing the videos and stuff, I think his striking just overall, we're going to see an evolution of Charlie. And I think just his striking game as well is just going to start, getting faster and just overall better. And he's just overall going to be a more techno fighter is the way I view it. So that being said, yeah, I got Charlie taking this one as well. But he's my 2-weight.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. We both picked the prelim that I don't think has ever happened in the history of Moneyline MMA. Again, we make these picks individually ahead of time and only discuss the order of the fights before the show. So we individually picked Charles Radke there. And just as a reminder for anybody not currently seeing the odds, Charles Radke is a plus 180 dog. Not only is Jose and I confident that he will be able to get this win, but he is currently... You only got to bet $100 and you're going to win 180 back. You're going to get 280 total. That's a great bet. And I couldn't agree more with Jose. I don't really want to take anything specific like submission because he's shown his ability to strike. Like he could have him on his back and still finish him by technical KO or something like that. So I don't know, man. I just think Charles Radke is going to get the job done for sure, even taking the homer bias out of it. Sounds like you agree. That's kind of the secondary Moneyline MMA lock of the week. And we only have one remaining pick left from Jose before we close it out for the night.
Yeah, so for my my final pick, for my 1-weight, this is the light heavyweight bout between Dominic Reyes and Dustin Jacoby. Right now, Dominic Reyes is the betting underdog at plus 176, while Dustin Jacoby is the betting favorite at minus 230. This one, it's tough. I like Dominic Reyes a lot, and I still have some faith in him. So that being said, this will come to a shocker probably to a lot of people, but I am going with Dominic Reyes, but that's why he's my 1-weight. I'm the least confident in him. Dude is 34 years old, and he's coming off a 4-fight losing streak. But when you look at it, his first loss was to John Jones. And then, even though it says unanimous decision, just a lot of people, and I remember watching that fight, it should have been a split. If John Jones was going to win it should have been, I think, maybe a split decision. But a lot of people had Dominic Reyes winning that fight, which, ultimately doesn't matter at the end because he on paper, he lost. And then he goes on to lose to former champ Jan Blachowicz, and then same with former champ Yuri Prochazka, and then now he loses to Ryan Spann, and this loss, as you mentioned, we talked about it before, he did not age well because Ryan Spann's also coming off like a losing skid himself. This is actually his last win. And that being said, Dominic Reyes, we have not seen him since 2022. He's not been as active. That being said, I think this time off has been good for him. And, he only has 4 losses on his record, and there just happen to be the most 4 recent ones. So I do think that there is a silver lining. I think he's going to bounce back. There's been a lot of fighters that have gone on 4-fight losing skids in the UFC. For example, Vitor Belfort and Andrei Arlovski, and these are dudes that have done it a few times in their career and then bounce back and rack up a winning streak again of 4 or 5, and then do it. I think even Arlovski's probably been on 4-fight losing streaks in the UFC, like 2 or 3 times, and dude then racks up a good amount of wins and comes back to oh, he's a fight away from like the heavyweight title match. So Dominic Reyes, he's been losing to nothing but studs, really. Even Ryan Spann, that it did not age well, but Ryan Spann still can't deny dude's not that bad of a fighter, to be honest. So just not top 5. And Dominic Reyes, I think Dominic Reyes is good enough to still linger somewhere actually within the top 10. Maybe not the top 5, but definitely somewhere within the top 10. And Dustin Jacoby, not to take anything away from him, but he's definitely not the level of fighters of any of the last 4 guys he's fought. Maybe closer to Ryan Spann, but even then, I think Ryan Spann probably beats Dustin Jacoby. And in this matchup too, Dominic Reyes he's going to be the younger fighter, and he's got good experience though. I like the experience he has. He has a win over Jared Cannonier back in the day via TKO in the first round. He has a win over Ovid St. Preux. He has a win over Volkan Ozdemir and a win over former middleweight champ Chris Weidman. So he got pushed to the top pretty quick because of the wins, and he was beating good people. So he beat people like it's respectable. He built a scary resume, and then he got nothing but scary dudes being given to him. And it's just unfortunate that out of like he has such a good fight with John Jones, and then goes on to get KO'd brutally like 3 times in a row. Which I think just him, the way he's been finished his last 3 fights, and how fast a lot of them happen within the first 2 rounds. It's just that's what I think a lot of people just remember and think of him now, which is like which I think is just unfair because he has a longer winning streak ahead of those 4 losses where he's beaten really good people, and he's beat he beat Jared Cannonier again, which we were just saying nothing but good things about in the first round, and that was a while ago. But Volkan Ozdemir also, he competed for both. Oven St. Preux and Volkan Ozdemir also had fought DC and John Jones, had their own chances of becoming light heavyweight champs, and of course Chris Weidman being a middleweight champ again. And so that being said, this is an underdog that I don't have that much faith in, but I just do think like if he loses this 5th one, then yeah, I think he should be out the door then too. Just because like if he's not gonna beat Dustin Jacoby, like we already seen him, like you already went and fought all these other top 5 guys. All right, let's give you like now top 10 and top 15. And if you can't even be like a top 15 guy, then yeah, you shouldn't even be in the UFC. But how they match up wise is Dominic Reyes is going to be the taller guy. He's 6'4". Dustin Jacoby is 6'3". Dominic Reyes only has a 1-inch reach advantage. So not much there. And both guys throw a high volume of strikes, and Dustin Jacoby does absorb a little bit more than Dominic Reyes. Dustin Jacoby absorbs 4.07 significant strikes per minute, while Dominic Reyes absorbs 3.77. This fight's definitely a man on the feet. I'm gonna definitely say it. Dominic Reyes. If someone gets knocked out, it's probably gonna be most likely Dominic Reyes, is what I think. So either Dominic Reyes is gonna have to knock out Dustin Jacoby, or he's going to win via unanimous decision. So if I take it, Dominic Reyes winning, I see him mostly winning this via unanimous decision, just because of he is a good fighter, and he's had his moments too. I like against Yuri, some of his losses against Yuri and Jan, he had some moments too where he's rocked them and he's looked good for like a split moment. So there's still something in there in him that I see, and that's why I still have some faith in him to still pull out a win. But again, not as just because of his loss, his last few fights, he probably is more susceptible to get knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby's only been knocked out once in his career. And Dominic Reyes, obviously being knocked out 3 times, and they just all happen to be his last 3 fights. So that being said, yeah, enough, I guess, about that. Like, I do have Dominic Reyes, but I have low confidence. If he wins this, I see him winning this by decision. I'll just keep it at that, by decision. If he loses, I would not be surprised if he gets knocked out and loses via KO and gets cut by the UFC. Then that's the only way I view these fights going. If he genuinely wins via KO or TKO, I'll be super happy for him. But I just don't see that really happening. But that being said, yeah, Dominic Reyes, my least confident pick. I think this may be his bounce back fight. I know for a fact you didn't. Obviously, we already went through all your picks. But do you have any thoughts on this fight, Nick?
Oh yeah, man. I think you had a lot to say, even though he was your one weight. And I would disagree. I didn't have a weight. I would disagree. I don't think, and I think you kind of said it too. I don't need to go on much long. I think you kind of said it. Reyes would have to win by decision, and that's not going to happen. Reyes is not going 15 minutes with Dustin Jacoby. That's crazy. Justin Jacoby has 12 knockout wins, and Dominic Reyes has 12 career professional MMA wins. I can't argue that he's fought against better fighters, of course, but in my opinion, that's not going to matter as much. Dustin Jacoby's been there and done that. He was like the second world ranked kickboxer before he moved over to the UFC. I think Dustin Jacoby's kind of been there and done that with some of the best anyways, whether it's the UFC's best or kickboxing's best. And like I said, I seriously don't think Dominic Reyes goes 15 minutes with Jacoby. There's just no way. But I didn't want to make this a pick of mine because I recognize that Reyes has had a couple of years off, and I do actually agree with you that I think it's bode well for him, and I got a lot of respect for him as well. Like, there's no doubt if it was a Dominic Reyes of 2017, I'd probably be thinking otherwise, but I really still have a lot of respect for Dustin Jacoby, and yeah, to me, he would be able to get it done.
No, right, yeah, right, fair enough. That means yeah, that's why Dominic Reyes is my one weight least confident. If Dustin beats him, I'm just gonna be like not surprised. But there's that one little insight of me like where like I can see Dominic and maybe his bounce back because like man, like you already lost 4 times. Like, come on, you got to win at some point. Is the way I'm kind of seeing it. So,
dude, this sport's brutal. I don't
yeah.
agree. I think he loses, man. I think he really does. And I still am not convinced they cut him. I don't think if he loses, they cut him. I just think he continues to fight more and more useless fighters. Like you said, Justin Jacoby. I'm not saying Justin Jacoby's better than say Ryan Spann. I think they're similar. I think Ryan Spann and Justin Jacoby would be a good matchup. And certainly Dustin Jacoby's worse than Jiri, right? Jiri's a freaking champion, blah blah. But Dustin Jacoby, man, he'll get in there and he'll get the job done, in my opinion.
No, I hear you, man. So this is Dominic Reyes is my one weight. You don't have a weight on this, but yeah, if you were to pick one, yeah, you would side with Dustin Jacoby then.
Sweet. All right. Yeah, I think that covers it all. We're gonna have continued heat for everybody. That's like I said, 18-2 in the last 2 cards. We've gotten 4 straight cards of our 5 weights matching up. We're far above 500 on the season. The season, I guess, being the year to date, and that will definitely continue. UFC has, of course, a card on this Saturday, and they're going to have some more cards for us for weeks and weeks, I believe, in a row. But I know for sure that after we get this Cannonier versus Imavov main card, we're going to get Perez versus Tyra in a UFC Apex fight night, in which I heard the UFC Apex is going away. We'll see how many more UFC cards we get in the UFC Apex. But that will be headlined by Alex Perez and Tatsuro Taira, the Japanese prospect. I think that was kind of put together last second, if I remember correctly, because Alex Perez had another fight and they had to rebook. So it's kind of a last-second replacement main event there. Interesting situation. In all reality, that card's probably going to be a lot less interesting in this one. So let's enjoy UFC Louisville while we have it. Thanks for listening. And, of course, tune in next Monday for our picks, our hot picks moving forward.